Buenas tardes. Si alguien necesita interpretación el día de hoy, si pueden levantar su mano. Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's go ahead and call the meeting into order at 6 p.m. Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I get a motion for approval of the agenda?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the agenda.
All second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Comments from the public? Superintendent Gardner?
Mr. Chairman, we received 3 comments for this meeting. Comment number 1, the commenter made 2 points: increasing attendance by reducing bus pollution effects on students, and had some funding recommendations about how to be accomplished. Public comment number 2, the commenter made 1 point, expressed support of the curriculum adoption materials that you were presented with at the previous meeting. Comment number 3, the commenter made 3 points, would like to know the plan to fill administrative positions in the district, the importance of having an EDI team, including the executive director of EDI, to support a diverse community, and support for the MTSS system in general. And just we currently have and are receiving applications for the Director of Equity and Inclusion. At this point, we have a committee as well that will be conducting those interviews here in the next few days.
Okay, thank you. Okay, E, board business. First is Teacher Appreciation Week proclamation. Proclamation recognizing Teacher Appreciation Week. Greater Albany Public Schools Board of Education proclamation number 2022/23 TAC 12. Whereas teachers mold future citizens through guidance and education, and whereas teachers encounter students of widely differing backgrounds, and whereas our country's future depends upon providing quality education to all students, and whereas teachers spend countless hours preparing lessons, evaluating progress, counseling and coaching students, and performing community service, and whereas our community recognizes and supports its teachers in educating the children of this community, now therefore be it resolved that the Greater Albany Public School Board of Directors proclaims May 8th through 12th, 2023 to be Teacher Appreciation Week, and be it further resolved that the Greater Albany Public Schools Board of Directors strongly encourages all members of our community to join with it in personally expressing appreciation to our teachers for their dedication and devotion to their work. Adopted this 24th day of April, 2023. Signed myself and our Superintendent, Andy Gardner. Okay, E2, National School Nurse Day proclamation. Proclamation recognizing National School Nurse Day. Greater Albany Public Schools Board of Education, proclamation number 2022/23, TAC 13. Whereas children are the future, and by investing in them today, we are ensuring our world for tomorrow. And whereas all students have a right to have their health needs safely met while in the school setting, and whereas children today face more complex and life-threatening health problems requiring care in school, and whereas school nurses have served a critical role in improving public health and in ensuring students' academic success for more than 100 years, and whereas school nurses are professional nurses that advance the well-being, academic success, and lifelong achievements of all students by serving on the front lines and providing a critical safety net for our nation's most fragile children. And whereas school nurses act as liaison to the school community, parents, and healthcare providers on behalf of children's health by promoting wellness and improving health outcomes for our community's children. And whereas school nurses are members of school-based mental health teams. And whereas school nurses understand the link between health and learning and are in a position to make a positive difference for children every day. Now therefore be it resolved that the Greater Albany Public Schools Board of Directors proclaims May 10th, 2023 to be National School Nurse Day. And be it further resolved that the Greater Albany Public Schools Board of Directors strongly encourages all members of our community to join with it in personally expressing appreciation to our school nurses for their dedication and devotion to their work. Adopted this 24th day of April 2023, signed by myself and our Superintendent, Andy Gardner. E3, Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. Proclamation recognizing Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. Greater Albany Public Schools Board of Education, Proclamation number 2022/23, TAC 14. Whereas Greater Albany Public Schools is enriched by the diversity of its students, staff, and families it serves, and proud to be a district where Asian American and Pacific Islander students can excel academically and make valuable contributions to the vitality of our schools. And whereas people of Asian American and Pacific Islander descent have shared their rich culture and traditions with our schools, with neighbors and friends, while also setting examples of excellence in public service and in the private sector as professions like medicine, law, business, education, technology, government, military service, culture. And whereas Asian American and Pacific Islander are resilient with strong family values, are dedicated to education and diversity, have added strength to our great democracy. And whereas Asian American and Pacific Islanders have also enriched our society by sharing in the entrepreneur American spirit that makes our nation free and prosperous. And whereas the history of Asian America and Pacific Islander in the U.S. have overcome misconceptions, bigotry, and hate in the forms of bias, crimes, and speech. And whereas such issues as civil rights abuses, harmful stereotyping, and bullying must be combated in the forms of education awareness. And whereas Asian American and Pacific Islander people have played an invaluable role in advancing and enriching our schools and districts' teaching and learning spaces. And whereas the incredible contributions and heritage of Asian American and Pacific Islander have helped us build better schools in a more diverse nation. And therefore, be it resolved that the Greater Albany Public Schools Board of Education proclaim May 2023 as Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. Adopted this 24th day of April 2023, signed by myself as the chair and by our Superintendent, Andy Gardner. Next up, E4, Board Committee for the Middle School. Any discussion on that?
I would like to see a few committee members added, like outside resources for mental health counselors that work in our school. And we have a Lynn County parole and probation officer that works in the middle schools. I think those would be a couple of important assets to this committee. They can fall under other.
Roger?
Mr. Chairman, I guess I would ask about the structure and why this would be a committee instead of a work group. A board committee of local government carries strings and requirements with it that I don't know that are necessarily helpful in this case. And Mr. Chairman, you clearly could call together a work group with delegated authority of the board. Just
Can a
think
work,
in my view, you might get more done with a work group instead of an official body. my
does a work group, can a work group have board members on it?
Oh, certainly it can. The question, the intuitive question for me, as long as you don't have three.
Right.
But I think that you would want to clear that with council if you were to have two. But
Could somebody articulate the difference for me between a work group and a committee and what that difference would, what are the restrictions that we'd face?
Well, I think if it's, and I'd ask the superintendent to correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I think that if it's a board committee, it's a public meeting and comes with all of the requirements and responsibilities of having that. Sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes when people are thinking and brainstorming out loud, you maybe don't want to have those things appearing, as such. So I guess it's a matter of where you're wanting to go and how fast you want to get there. Because it's a public meeting, it would require, there would be more notice requirements. So just my thoughts, if you wind up appointing the committee, I will vote in favor of doing this. I know it's an important issue. Just wondering about the best vehicle to get you where you want to go.
Mr. Chair, one of
Go
the
ahead.
one of the technicalities of the work group versus the committee is, I believe a committee has to be, each individual has to be appointed by the board, where a work group, the superintendent can form that work group himself.
I think the difference is it a board committee or is it a superintendent? I mean,
Yeah.
same, we're on the same lines here. Yeah, I did have a question myself, and then that is who, I see a bunch of subject areas, folks representing certain areas, but who's gonna appoint these members? And who's kind of leading? And is there a kind of a framework? Is every behavior possible on the table to discuss, or are we gonna narrow it down to some specific items?
It says in the workbook, move to approve the superintendent Gardner to facilitate recruitment of
Okay.
committee members.
Facilitate recruitment, okay.
Mr. Gardner?
So I think that the policy BCE makes it very clear that it will follow public meetings law. I do not believe that any personally identifiable information or incidents could be a part of that group, because that would be taking information into public. And so a public board committee does not offer the flexibility that a work group would have. I don't believe that, this says board committees, but it would not preclude that someone could sit in to that work.
So my own take on one of the things that we could learn from most is, history, right? We should learn from history. So if one of the things is we can't talk about how things have been handled in the past and how we learn from that, then maybe if we can't involve names, that would be a bad thing to go with the committee.
It will tie you down to more broad policy structures.
Right? Your input, Mr. Gardner, what would you think be more useful? I mean, I'm just looking to solve, we have some behavior issues, but I think it's really important for us to be able to talk to what those behavior issues are. We don't need to talk about names, but I do think it's important to talk about circumstances and what actually happened so we can learn from it and, do a better job the next time, right? So
The work group would be my preference.
Okay.
For example, Eric has
Yep.
already recommended a couple of other people to appoint. Well, we haven't found them yet.
Right.
So that would allow us to move more quickly.
Okay. I am certainly in favor of the work group if we think that's going to be the more successful thing to make improvement. The only issue there being is then we got to watch having board members on it, right? We only can have one?
We'll confirm that.
Okay. Go ahead, Roger.
I think you can have two,
Okay.
but I would encourage you to
Yep.
check with council in doing that. I mean, if you can't have two, as a single member of a three-member board, I alone am in violation of public meeting policies every time I talk to a constituent, and that just doesn't work.
Right. Okay, maybe we can talk about this a little bit follow on, but are we in favor of, we don't even have to vote to create a work group committee if that's what we're thinking of doing?
And if that's the easiest way to get at being able to talk
about behaviors and looking for some solutions. That's what I'm trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I just think we've had some examples over the last year that we could learn from, but we don't need to talk names, we do need to talk circumstances, and by talking circumstances in a public setting, you probably could figure out the names, and that would be unhealthy. So, I'm good with us tabling this and making it a working group. Does that sound good to everybody? Everybody in favor of that? Looks like I'm seeing a lot of nods. Okay, Superintendent Gardner, you're good with that as well?
Yep.
Okay, next, E5, I'm going to hand off to the Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We received a formal complaint from a Mr. Michael Harlan. I'm going to read it into the record. And it was sent to all of the board members, the superintendent, and board secretary Chris Green. Following board policy KL, I am submitting this complaint to the school board vice chair, Brad Wilson, in writing. I expect for this complaint to be presented to the board in a public board meeting per the policy and state law. Pete Morse recently called the Salem Fire Department's operation chief, identifying himself as a school board member, and called to complain about me, a parent and private citizen. Pete reported to the chief that I was yelling and belligerent at board meetings in Albany. When asked for his name, he did not want to give his name. The chief told him he would need to call him back and thus would need his name and phone number. He requested that the chief give him his word that he wouldn't reveal his name. Outside of the scope of his position, he used his position to target me and made false accusations about my conduct. Also, the alleged conduct was off-duty and nothing to do with my employment with the Salem Fire Department. There are many people willing to testify that I wasn't yelling or belligerent. There is also video proof. This constitutes slander, and because it is outside of the scope of the job, Pete can be held personally liable legally. I have no faith in the superintendent or the board's ability to investigate their own misbehavior. It is clear that Pete is targeting me personally because of my wife and her complaint to the Oregon Ethics Commission. The same day that Pete called, Tuesday, March 14th, he sent an email in response to me, which is copied below. His behavior is unethical, unbecoming of a board member, and constitutes harassment and slander. I plan on pursuing legal action. The remedy I am seeking is a public apology and resignation. Thank you, Mike Harlan. He then included an excerpt from an email. And this excerpt is from Pete to Mike, and it says, Mike, enjoy your day. No offense was intended in any way, as I'm sure you are aware, but if the thought of this makes your day seem brighter, more power to you. Positive thoughts help us all get through the day. I have had some positive thoughts of my own today that have helped put a smile on my face. A good workout to blow off steam also is helpful. Be well, Pete. That is the end of the complaint. Before us, we have two motions that we need to consider. The first one is a motion to approve a complaint investigation. Do I have
I move to approve an investigation.
I'll second.
all those?
Just procedurally, Mr. I would hope that we're not going to vote before we discuss.
Okay.
And Chair Morris,
let's go ahead.
I don't know that you should be participating in this deliberation and voting.
Sure, I'm just looking to clear my name. So I understand. I'm out.
I'll make a motion to proceed with an investigation.
I second that motion.
All those,
What?
want some discussion? All right, go, Roger, go.
So I guess for me, I view our role in this tonight in the matter of wearing a judge's hat or judicially. We have a complaint. Based on the evidence, do we believe there's substance to the complaint and it's as likely to have happened as not based on the evidence? At this point, for me, the official complaint is an allegation. There is no evidence that came with the complaint that the allegation ever happened. The accused has provided evidence that he did not, in fact, take the actions as alleged. So if you're going to proceed with an investigation on this matter, I would just ask you, where does it stop? You won't get a complaint with less evidence that the complaint actually had than this one. And so what happens if in 2 weeks if you have 100 complaints? And in fact, I think at one point a couple of years ago, there were multiple complaints against, well, no, I don't think it was against the board chair. So let me correct that. So think about the precedent you're setting and how you manage this going forward. If the complainant, and so I would say there would be no jeopardy, if you will, by the complainant issuing a new complaint that had evidence with it. But in this case, I'm not comfortable spending taxpayer money or the district's time investigating something that there's just no evidence before us that it happened. Somebody tell me how that works and where it stops.
There's no evidence that, so a parent in this district made an allegation that the chair himself is willing to go down an investigative process. We have in our employment laws, or our employment, not our laws, but our setup, allegations are made all the time, and I think it's common to have investigations when there may be a idea of bias from the supervisor. You know, and that's what I see here. A parent has, in great detail, naming his employer, I mean, we could call the chief of the Salem Fire Department on our own, but then once again, then we're doing the investigation. That's the whole point of a third party.
The whole point is we're not the investigator. And I would tell you that absent some evidence that it actually happened, that again, where does it stop? I mean, again, in 2 weeks, you could have 100 complaints. You're going to investigate every one of them?
Hypothetically, it's just, I have the level of detail, and it's a parent coming before us with, I think, credible allegation. And even if I didn't think credible, it would be backed up by the fact that the chair himself is willing to go through and clear his name, as he put it.
I've seen both. We did have complaints against our former board chair and the former board, and they just dismissed it.
Which could happen here. You know, I don't want to make a judgment on where it's going to go, but
So barring that, I guess the middle ground would be to give the complainant some time to produce some evidence that this actually happened. An affidavit from the person who took the phone call, phone records. Give me something.
I'm okay with going to a third-party investigator as the motion.
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
So are you saying that, like, you believe that it didn't happen? Because, and I'm just wondering, like, I know that if you've, complaints get, like, filed before, do you have to investigate every single one of them, or?
That's the issue I'm raising. What I'm telling you is based on the evidence I have, I don't have the basis to go forward spending taxpayer dollar conducting an investigation.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to weigh in a little bit on this. It's true that there would be some money spent because we're going to have to hire a third-party investigator. But I'll ask you all this question. What price reputation? What's your reputation worth?
It's worth a lot, because I can tell you, I was denied a third-party investigator when you guys came after me that we already know violated my civil rights. The board wanted to do the whole investigation by themselves. Denied. Good night, gentlemen.
Okay. So we have the opportunity for a motion. It was made by a gentleman who just left, so we would probably need to see that motion again.
I would move to approve a third-party investigator to manage the complaint. Oh, I'm sorry. Move to approve a complaint investigation. That's step one.
So, so I think it still takes three. One's out. And so I need to vote to do this, or we might be here all night discussing this. And so I would just say this. I will vote for the motion, but I would also ask that going forward, we set some clear guidelines on what triggers an investigation and what doesn't. And I'll just leave it at that.
We still need a second.
I just gave you a second.
Okay. All those in favor to move forward with the complaint investigation, say aye.
Aye.
And I'm abstaining.
Any opposed?
I think one just left.
Yeah. Well, unstated opposition. Okay, so motion number 2 is to move to approve a third-party investigator to manage the complaint investigation. So we would need a motion on that.
I would move to approve a third-party investigator to manage the complaint investigation.
I would second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I abstain.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Chairman, back to you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next is superintendent comments under F. Superintendent report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before we go into goals, we'll talk a little bit more about budget. Just a couple of things as we focus on coming into balance. We have, and we don't have Mrs. Knopfsiger on the agenda for tonight, but we have been processing over the last month with our full district all leadership team, what our priorities would be as we move into budget. It is clear that they want to save people as the highest priority, people functioning in their jobs. We have, as a result of that, we are working to cut travel for the next year. That will be important and early. We're trying to see what we can do to stop some of the summer travel that had already been planned. Also, we had talked about summer camps at Lynn Benton Community College. Those were for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students. They were experience camps. They had started with COVID. Now that the ESSER funding is ending, we are not going to be able to sustain those. LBCC also ran a summer credit recovery for high school students, checking in with both principals. They do their own summer school here and recover credits for students. And so they felt that we could direct our efforts here. And I believe those are paid for through the high school success. And so it is with regret that we take a couple of those programs away, but as we are looking right now, it's going to be a challenge. Really appreciate the work that Sue Luther in the audience and Stafford Boyd have done, working with Jane Knopfsiger, Dave Bolin as well. They have done an incredible amount of investigation. Our intent is to make any move that we would take here with budget. the schools are going to look the same next year and that it'll be an adjustment and that we'll be able to move forward successfully. So if we go to the goals, these are the 3 goals that were developed last year, and I'm on the next item on the agenda. The strategic plan completion. I think this is something that it will be a shift. Obviously, budget is competing with some of this work, but we're going to put an annual goals process together and incorporate the strategic plan and those priorities for each school leader and also in our departments. Let's go to the next one. You'll remember that we had multiple things that we were doing as the year began. I'll point you over to the right where it says February to June. People are building right now their goals. I think the elementary, middle school, high school principals have already heard from Stafford and worked with Sue on that. Our director goals are also going to be incorporated into that. If you take a look down at the bottom on the right, superintendent goals, I'll be developing those as well, and they will reflect the strategic plan, equitable outcomes, social and emotional supports, rigorous and engaging academic environment. It is not impossible that we would see a further goal on the fiscal health of the district. These 2 years are going to be challenging. I think each of the next 2 years we will get better at our budget. Some of this year has been the Easter egg hunt to find everything that we are doing and what the costs are, and I know that work continues to be ongoing. And then community input on scheduling, how we can build better schedules across the district. I think that there are any number of challenges in our schedules. Some are forced by shortage. We have early and late start elementaries. Some start at 8, some start at 9. We have 3 different high schools, 3 different schedules. The development of our fiscal systems, looking to build a sustainable budget that is accurate, clear to stakeholders and the public, and allows long-range forecasting. We can already see that 23-24 and 24-25 are really tight. We do believe that in the long run, 25-26, the 3rd year, we will see some loosening as this kicker goes away. And so this will allow us to do some things, but it does mean we have 2 years here, and we've got a plan so that we're somewhat balanced in both. By which I mean this: if we used all of our ending fund balance to survive for a year and avoid costs, we will almost certainly be cutting just as much next year because we're going to run out of money. So we're thinking to put together a 2-year plan here across the 23-25 biennium. So you can see where I say budget process on the right. You can see all of the work that has been done. Mrs. Knopfziger coming in August gave us a little bit of a late start this year. We are still without an audit. Those were due on January 1st. The auditors are coming this week. So, and that will be helpful just to complete that. But as we have become more accurate, I think there are fewer and fewer surprises with that audit. It took us until, was it February, that we actually were balanced up to the current month in our bank accounts. So there are several things that are helping us to become more and more accurate in our funding and in our ability to project. Let's go to the next one. So just overall, and I'm not going to talk too much money here, but we begin our budget with meeting number 1 on May 10th. We will see the May revenue forecast. Each quarter, the state sends out its, here's how the last 3 months have gone. And so we will see that on or about May 17th. Right now, we are at $9.9 billion. And it is possible that we could see the state, if the revenue forecast is trending as they expect it to, that we could see, for example, $9.9 billion move to 10. That equals $748,000 per year. There is also an early literacy initiative that sits in the House Ways and Means Committee that is not going to move until they see the May 17th forecast. That would be equivalent to about $880,000. So we could see $748,000 plus about 880,000, or about 1.6 million, if we see a solid revenue fund or solid revenue report from the state. We will have to build the budget to go forward on or about May 10th, but we will have a plan that will include add-back items if that's the case. As of today and every day, I believe that we are working and we are narrowing the gap. We see about a 4% overall reduction out of $121 million. If those two funds, the literacy and a move to 10.0 were to occur, we would see about a 2.5% reduction necessary, which is not, that's an adjustment. That is not a massive cut, right? I think we saw cuts on the range of 10 to 15% in 2011 to 2013. And so we believe that we are going to be able to put the necessary work together that will make this an adjustment and will bring us through. And I think we can then look forward to next year with a far more accurate process as we go forward. So we're very happy about that. And I just really want to acknowledge the tremendous work that Jane Knopfsiger has done since her arrival here. The last one is culture of teamwork. We have spent this year working a little bit on values. We did put out a survey. Budget has begun to overwrite some of the time necessary. We want to meet with the different directors in each department. We can go forward. We want to share the results privately in person with each of the directors, and then we'll share out some of the broad outcomes that we see on the customer service survey. I just want to make a point here. This was not sent to every person in the district. This was really about service between buildings and the district office. So we went with building administrators, secretaries, and then employees who work for the district, whether it be out at Grand Prairie maintenance or whether it's in our district office here, so that we all took a survey and said, okay, this department, I experienced this. This department, I experienced great service in this way, but here's one way that we don't. So that survey, we have those results. I think I got a lot of data from that, and we'll be sharing that out. John Dilbone, want to recognize him, did a great job of working to diligently put all that together. Massive undertaking. He did a great job. Let's go to the next one. So these are the draft values that we surveyed on, and they are not in any particular order, but these are the ones, and we'll probably work these a little bit more even in the ongoing this year and certainly into next year, right? Empathetic listening, clear communication and follow through, ownership of the issue, response timeline, find the answer or connect to those with the answer, follow up to ensure the issue is resolved, and then just to seek feedback consistently. Many banks and companies, if you interact with them, you get a survey that will follow up in the mail. And then cultural fluency, I think that there was some pretty good work in the survey where we began to say, do you feel valued after interacting with this department or this school, right? And so what we'll want to do is eventually turn that into a customer satisfaction survey that we would put to parents as well and just agree on those timelines. So that's it. If you have any questions, happy to answer.
Roger, go ahead.
I'm pretty concerned about budget.
Yes.
Most concerning to me at this point is the starting point, because we haven't yet started. And the issue, I think the last meeting, it showed our beginning balance, we would be projecting a $122 million budget when the previous budget, the current budget, is a $121 million budget, even though we know that the K through 12 from the state is going up at least 6%. Our funding from that of our total money was somewhere above $70 million. I've got it on my phone, but I don't want to pretend I'm on the phone here goofing around while we're talking. So that alone is an additional $4.2 million. And so have we had a COVID budget cliff, for lack of a better term, and that we've employed people with federal dollars that are now going away? And if that's the case, that would be good to know. It also would be good to know what positions those are.
I think this district has done a very good job compared to other districts in terms of not putting a huge load of staff into the federal ESSER funds that are going away. I think it may be valuable to just take you guys through at a board meeting why, if we were 9.3 billion in this biennium and we've gone to 9.9, why is it we don't have a little more money?
Well, again, I grew up in a bowling alley. My math is pretty simple and it's usually fairly accurate. 70 million at a 6% increase is $4.2 million, yet our starting point is only $1 million more than it was last year.
So we can do it one of two ways. We could either present so that people understand the funding and how that works, or we could have you come in and just walk you through it as well.
Yeah, I don't, either way works for me, but it
Okay.
probably will be in some detail, and I'm not sure we want to.
At least in general, I
There will
think it's-
definitely be some detail.
At least in general, I think it's important to do it here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you want to go into detail,
But if you,
that's great.
we'd be happy to have any one of you guys come in and we can walk you through what that looks like on the funding sheet.
Thank you. Okay, G, board reports, board member reports. Michael, you have anything?
No, just to dovetail on the, I was glad to see the legislature, well, it wasn't the legislature, it was the Department of Education head said, told districts, don't wait on the legislature to help you with summer programs. And then right after I saw that, the announcement that the superintendent had cobbled together a way to do most of, I mean, he highlighted the ones that we're not gonna do, but he highlighted most of it that we are gonna do, and I was glad to see that. I think it's very important. It's a way to help kids following COVID. Each of these summers have been more opportunities than previous summers, and so I was just glad to see that.
Could I just add that we do intend to do summer school K-5? Thank you, Michael.
Roger, you have anything? Nope. Brad? Okay, I'm just appreciative that we voted to do the third-party investigation. Obviously, it's important to me to clear my name. One interesting thing about being in this position is people can throw stones and you don't really get to reply to it, and that's a different position to be in from what I've been in the past. So I'm happy that we're going to look into that. Also, I'd like to share the fact in the future, sometime in May, me and the superintendent and the other board members talk about it. We're going to have actually one of your employees, Tori Linson, go over and talk to the school board about things he's seen with juvenile issues and drugs and just behavior in general and how things have changed in the last few years. Okay, committee, and, nope. I am sorry. Hadley, you go first. I'll read afterwards.
Tennis, golf, track, and lacrosse are in the midst of their seasons right now. I'm sure everyone is enjoying the warm, sunny weather to go practice in. Philosophy, the Philosophy Club has finished reading through all of the moral dilemmas in the Ethics Bowl, and they plan on coming up with their own moral dilemmas, as well as diving more into focused research on philosophies and philosophers. Model UN had their trip to U of O, where they represented Norway. Global crises were discussed and resolved in global security, environment, human rights, and economy committees. This was a big conference with over 600 students from across Oregon, even leading out to other states like Washington and Arizona. At the last Environmental Club meeting, a member of the Interact Club Victoria came to promote the Interact Club. Speaking of, Interact Club at West Albany is a part of Rotary International. This club helps with community service and volunteering. Students participate in community events. Journalism. Last week, students from West Albany's student publication programs went to the GEA NSPA National High School Journalism Convention in San Francisco. where they attended instructional sessions, toured media firms, and competed on-site in media competitions. The students' news magazine, The Whirlwind, won 10th Best in Show award for schools with fewer than 1,800 pupils. The convention drew over 300 schools from around the country, as well as a few overseas schools. I talked to one of the journalists on the trip, and she mentioned that we all learned a ton that we will be able to apply to future applications. We also grew as a staff and family. That was Gretchen Morgenstern. We have other clubs going on, such as Cozy Crafts Clubs meets Thursday after school, Gender and Sexuality Alliance meets Tuesdays after school, Chess Club meets Thursday after school, and tutors are available in the library 7th and 8th period after school on Tuesdays and Thursdays. On May 9th, West is holding its 8th grade visitation day led by WAS administration and leadership. This night, parents and incoming freshmen will get to learn about high school experience, forecasting, clubs, activities, sports, and school spirit. This has to be one of my favorite nights because it's nice to see all the different athletics and clubs come together to welcome all the students. WAS wants to make sure that there is something for everyone. West Albany's spring production of The Wizard of Oz is in full swing with opening night last Thursday. Tickets are available online for the 26th, 27th, and 28th and 29th performances. West is also holding Drama Night this Wednesday, which is an exclusive performance for the student body and staff. There's outdoor school outreach to the middle schools recently. I talked with a student from West Albany, Emily Burnt, and she talked about the outdoor school outreach experience. She said that over the last several weeks, several students from West and South Albany high schools, including Emily, myself, have been training and preparing to volunteer as outdoor school counselors for North Albany, Central, Timber Ridge, and Calpoolia 6th graders. This class teaches essential skills like teamwork, conflict resolution, and tools to make successful adults, connects students with nature in a way that doesn't stress them out about the state of the planet, and this program is an excellent opportunity for students to get to know each other and their environment better, and I hope this class can continue to thrive in the future. For band, Friday and Saturday are the state solo and ensemble contests. On May 10th, the wind ensembles play with the U of O brass and ensemble as a send-off for state, and Jazz State is May 12th. On May 20th, Jazz Band will perform at Academic Awards. And lastly, Latin Outreach, LBCC. Juniors and seniors who plan to attend LBCC can meet LBCC's Latino Outreach and Retention Manager at lunch on Friday, April 28th to meet Mr. Angel Dorantes. Here students can learn more about the support LBCC can provide for students. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Behrens from South Sunderland will be here, but he provided a report, so I will read his report. Club updates. Most clubs are winding down for the year and working on transferring leadership onto next year's members and ending the year strong. Key Club. Some members went on to the Kiwanis Dornbecker's trip April 15th and learned about ways to help children with cancer and blood disorders while also donating the tie blankets that they had been making all year long. SAYA is working on opening relations with a local organization on ways to encourage a climate-friendly and equitable community. FCCLA is planning their senior send-off. Drama Club sent some competitors to state who had a fun time seeing different skits and meeting different people. I am told there was sweat, tears, and laughter. Library happenings. Extended library hours continue. Libraries open until 4:30 on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Earth Day activities all this month with a fill a planter box at lunch happening tomorrow. There is the final Red Hawks Rising session of this year starting next week from May 2nd through to 25th. This is Tuesdays and Thursdays after school. Students can come in and get teacher help and work together to make up for late work. Leadership is having senior junior prom April 29th at the OSU Alumni Center. Hosting a blood drive April 26th, open to all staff and students in the library from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. If a board member wants to drop by in the afternoon and donate, we wouldn't be opposed. But the drive is unfortunately closed to the general public. He's organizing it, and this is my last drive in high school. Having powder puff and macho volleyball in late May. Finishing up a book drive that ran last week. announcing ASB election results. These just finished up today with officers being decided tomorrow and announced sometime tomorrow. This means we have found my replacement for next year. It will be on our new ASB president and incoming junior named Rafael Lozada. Sports, track and field competes at West Albany tomorrow at 3:30. Girls tennis is at Woodburn tomorrow at 4. Baseball is at the Dalles today at 5. Softball is at South today versus Lebanon at 5. Theater, prepping for their spring play, The Plot Like Gravy Thickens, which opens next weekend. 8th grade visits happened this week. Incoming freshmen from our feeder schools got a preview of high school. Clubs and groups got an opportunity to introduce themselves to new students, while leadership and avid students sat on a student panel and leadership students led tours. Smarter Balance testing is wrapping up as we move into AP testing season. Moving on to more informal news. 2 ducks that have decided to live on campus. Many students have taken a liking to them. Rowdy has some competition for best bird on campus. I guess that means there was only one, but now there's 2. It's his birthday. All right, well, happy birthday. I assume he must be turning 18. Would you know, Hadley? Okay, 18, a legal adult. All right, good for him. Admin, Mrs. Ayers said to mention that she is cool. All right, so that is important. One thing I'd like to promote for just the Albany Theater in general, if you haven't gone to one of their events in that new auditorium, it's pretty amazing. You know, my family's gone to the last 2, and probably about Christmas time, my daughter and son said, hey, have we signed up to go to another one? You know, and we said, hey, we don't have tickets yet, but we're going this week. It's really, the show they put on is very impressive, and it's in an impressive site, and it's something for us to feel good about and for the students to feel good about. So, all right, next up, we have committee, community, and school presentations, school report. Mr. Gardner, I'll have you introduce Periwinkle.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to introduce first-year principal Caitlin Lindsay, who is strongly taken hold of the job there. Really appreciate the work and the thought that she puts into the job. And take it away, Caitlin.
Thank you. Get set up here real quick. All right. Here we go. Thank you. Thanks for having me tonight. So I'm Caitlin Lindsay. Again, this is my first year being a principal, and I've actually been at Periwinkle the last 4 months. I finally counted. So Periwinkle, our mission is to be a positive school community where all staff and students unite to share a commitment to growth and learning for all. Our staff is really focused on being safe people and creating a safe place for students and families, being welcoming, encouraging, and engaging. Some quick facts about Periwinkle. We have about 383 students. 23% of our students identify as Hispanic, 60% of students identify as white, and 10% of our students identify as multiracial. We have class sizes that range from 15 to 25, depending on the grade level, and all students receive the opportunity for free breakfast and lunch. We are in the midst of transitioning to be a fully funded Title I school for the 23-24 school year. Currently, we have 22 classified staff members and 28 licensed staff. There's 3 teachers per grade level. We have a full-time dean, counselor, and instructional coach, and that's something we really take pride in. That helps us have our systems running smoothly. We have a full-time intervention teacher that's funded out of our title funds, a full-time ELD teacher, and students receive music and PE 2 times per week and rotate on Fridays. So our approach to meeting the district strategic plan for equitable outcomes and systems for all students, we have data-driven systems for reading and math interventions. Our staff meets at least every 6 weeks. Some groups meet every other week. We have systematic approach and dedicated team for our individual problem solving or IPS meetings. We meet every Wednesday morning to review student data for behavior, academics, and attendance. We have data-driven systems school-wide to identify areas for improvement. And we have involvement of our ELD teacher for decisions affecting our second language learners. When it comes to social, emotional, and mental health supports, we have our full-time counselor. We have weekly DESA data-driven social skills groups facilitated by our dean and counselor DESA is how we score students on their social emotional skills. We have dedicated SEL time in our master schedule and monthly SEL assemblies, not only in person, but also through a virtual lesson. To meet the rigorous and engaging academics, we have dedicated time for grade level teams to complete unit mapping for priority standards using high impact strategies like QTEL. We've been able to give 3 half-day planning sessions for each grade level team through the use of our title funds. And we've been using our iReady diagnostic and their math interventions to help our easy CBM scores. Some challenges we face are no different than other elementary schools. These ones really affect our day-to-day. One is bus routes being canceled. There just simply isn't enough bus drivers to help take care of themselves and meet the needs of our students. That directly correlates to our student attendance. One, we're battling students and families learning how to come back from COVID, that not every symptom that they have is something that needs to be staying home, but ranging between when it's okay to come to school and when we need to stay home to take care of themselves. But also we have attendance issues because they don't have transportation to school because there is no drivers. Another challenge is our classified sub shortage. Periwinkle has been lucky enough to see an increase in our certified sub once EduStaff was implemented, but it has not helped our classified sub shortage. And that really affects the safety and the supervision at lunchtime and on the playground. The other thing is assessment cadre burnout. This year when we adopted the language arts or the literacy curriculum, we were working to create assessments that were tied to specific standards, priority standards, and teachers were on that committee to write. Periwinkle has 8 certified staff members that are a part of that assessment cadre, more than any other elementary school, and that causes a lot of extra work and time for them to write those assessments to make sure that they're ready for other grade levels or other schools. So trying to make sure that we're balancing their personal needs, their classroom needs, and then also the district needs has been a challenge for them. Some points of pride for Periwinkle. We do weekly student shout-outs through Monday virtual announcements. We have staff celebrations. Periwinkle has lots of new baby roadrunners joining us. 6 of our staff are having babies this year, so we're doing lots of baby showers. We have a supportive parent club. We do Golden Awards monthly. We had the wonderful experience of joining the regional Oregon Battle of the Books tournament, and Periwinkle actually came in top 8 in our region. We do bingo nights and spirit assemblies. We've really found that doing these extra spirit and celebrations has actually increased our student attendance. So we're really focused in on trying to find those fun ways to encourage students to come to school. Some other points of pride for our Swiss data that documents our behavioral referral data. We have increased our green zone by 7%. We're actually up to 86% of our students have 1 or less referrals. And that is, you can see on there from the 21-22 school year till now. And we also have averaged 9% of our students moving from some are high risk to low risk in our easy CBM. And that's our math data. Some great points of pride in our Acadians data, measuring our reading. In kindergarten, from the beginning of the year till now, 32% of our students have increased to the at or above grade level. 19% has increased in first grade, second at 6%, third at 7%, fourth at 18%, and fifth at 10%. So really you can see that work that teachers are taking to plan strong core instruction and targeted interventions is making a difference. Some things that our students say. Hunter in 5th grade says it's a great school and lots of fun. It's a safe place. Colt in 5th grade says I like seeing my friends. Ari in 1st grade, I love that we get recess with friends, make friends, and learn cool stuff. Kana in 2nd grade says I love Periwinkle because you can make friends. And Lux in 1st grade, I love how kind the teachers are. And I promise I didn't tell her to say that. The biggest thing that I noticed when I came into Periwinkle really is summed up in these 5 quotes. I love how staff members care about kids and each other. The students are great. We keep kids at the center of our decisions. I love serving students and families and seeing the amazing growth they make. It feels like family. The staff there really is dedicated to each other and to the students being the center of all of their decisions. Looking forward for the next year, when we're thinking about relationship building, we want to continue to work on improving that attendance, not only students coming to school each day, but also attendance for different family events. We want to teach, expect, and acknowledge using Tier 1 systems for behavior and create staff and community collective efficacy. It really takes a whole village to help our kiddos, and so we want to make sure that we partner with everyone. When it comes to skill building, we're going to continue to use data-driven instruction for any of the lagging skills for students with Tier 2 and Tier 3 behaviors. So according to that data, students that would get 2 to 5 referrals a year or more than 6. We're finding that those students are actually lagging skills and need to be explicitly taught those. We want to strengthen our collective efficacy with PLC work for our teachers, continue work with small group instruction for reading and math. And for our community, we want to grow that family involvement and solidify our communication systems within the building and with the community. At Periwinkle, when we're finished with any type of presentation, assembly, or Monday announcements, we end it with a beep beep. Thank you for having me tonight.
Thank you very much. Any questions?
Well, I'm kind of curious, how does it get assigned, the cadre involvement? Does Periwinkle just volunteered and raise their hand?
They do. They are often the
Perhaps they-
ones part of all of the curriculum mapping, assessment writing teams.
That's
I
great.
actually tell them I'm purposely not asking you to join this committee because they are a yes team. We're still learning the word no in our staff.
Yeah, but clearly I would suggest they acknowledge their involvement, maybe take a step back.
Yes.
They have too much, it's the work of everybody.
Yeah, and it really their minds and how they look at things is really with that equity lens and working with everyone involved. And I really have great admiration for them. So we're still finding that balance.
Yeah.
Brad?
So what would you say your biggest need at Periwinkle is? If we were to pick one thing that you would like to get fixed, what would that be?
Truly, the biggest thing that I hear from staff consistently is actually our bus routes. Having that consistent piece that we know every child has the opportunity to come to school. One, because we have lots of students that have high needs academically, and one thing that can, as we go through our individual problem-solving system and we're moving to see if there's more interventions to do or potentially need a referral to special education, one of the things they look at is attendance. Did the student have enough access to their education, or did they not have exposure enough? And how disheartening can it be if it's actually the school that's keeping their students from not being able to get to the building?
Perfect.
So you're standing at the podium, not necessarily directed at you, but why are we still having this problem? Are other districts still having bus problems as well? And it's frustrating.
Well, it's, we're underemployed, as is most of Albany, and we are regularly, I think, running mechanics driving. We are struggling to attract, and we're trying to raise wages, of course, in the bargaining as well. Hopefully that can do some of it.
Actually, I mean, from what my understanding is, it's all about numbers. We don't have the numbers, and it's kind of amazing we're doing as well as we are, considering how understaffed we are in that zone.
Well, with all due respect,
Yeah. Yep.
that doesn't equate to amazing for me based on what kids are getting. So, again, not being an expert in the field, are there other districts that have solved this problem, and how have they done that, and can we do that? And you don't have to answer me tonight, but again, it's in part a budget issue, but this has got to get fixed.
I don't disagree.
I'd just like to say, great work. I mean, looking at the numbers, I mean, that's, seeing improvement. And, I mean, I don't get to spend as much time in the classrooms as you guys do, but when I go and you see those young kids and they just discover they know something, or they're just excited about, oh, wow, I did this. It's really neat, and that's one of the rewards of being a teacher, I would think, but obviously the results that you're showing are great. So I just want to say thank you to you and your staff, and keep up the good work. I understand your challenges, and I'm sorry they exist. We'll do our best. Unfortunately, right now, we, like the superintendent said, we're kind of having to recreate the wheel. There's not enough people to do what we need to do, and we need them in those positions because you need to get the kids in the seats. Otherwise, they can't learn, right? So we'll do our best to make that better. Any other questions from anyone?
I just want to thank you. I know pre-COVID, Periwinkle was famous for its fundraising auction about this time of year. Have you already
Couple
had it? Did I
weeks.
miss it? All right.
The first time back, I think in 3 years, 3 or
Okay.
4 years.
I'll be
So
I'll be by to see you. When is it? We
May
should promote it here.
19th.
May 19th. What
May
time?
Silent
19th.
auction at 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock on May
Yes.
19th. Be
I've
there.
heard it is quite the event, so I'm excited to see it in person.
It is. Good luck.
All right, thank you so
Thank you
much.
again.
Thank you very much. Yeah, beep, beep.
Beep.
Nice, Brad.
Thanks.
Okay, H2, school report, Tangent Elementary. Superintendent Gardner will have you introduce the next up.
Yeah, I'd like to introduce Gretchen Carter. Multiple sources in my first year have pointed out the great work she has done to make a real difference at her elementary school at Tangent. I think she has changed the culture there of the kids and the staff. And welcome, Gretchen Carter.
We don't say beep beep, but we do say raise the roof. Whoop, whoop. I had to figure out how to work that in there somewhere.
Perfect.
All right, so I do have some of my Tangent Superstars here with me to make sure that I don't fall on my knees. It's loading. One more try. All right, we're gonna go. Got any ideas, Rob? I'm on Chrome devices because I'm on a Mac.
There you go. You can.
Chris is my hero. Yay, Chris.
Go, Chris.
All right, so we are the Tangent Superstars. School board and superintendent Andy is the only thing I remember. Mr. Gardner, we're really excited to be here and share with you some awesome data that Tangent has to share. Here are a couple of things that our students have said. There are Superstars parties every month at Tangent. All of Kinder couldn't get any of them to say anything different because they would just agree with each other. I like PE when we play and make our brain grow stronger. Duncan in first grade says, I wish we had more school. And I asked him, well, how much more? And he said, 300 pounds more. And then Kennedy in third grade said, I love being here because I can read chapter books. Our third grade teacher is pretty magical about convincing kids they can read. So here are some quick facts about Tangent. Our classroom statistics are we only have one teacher per grade level. Last year we added a preschool, so we've had a preschool part of last year and then all of this year, so we have a pre-K through 5. We have several part-time staff support, and I will go into that in far right. We are school-wide title, so this year we've been really focused on our parent engagement plan and increasing our advisory team so we can increase ways that parents can be involved. Our enrollment includes 130 students. We might be up to 132 with a couple of new kids that are starting this week. Our preschool started, like I said, last year. We had 17 on the wait list for this year. Currently, we have 10 ready for next year, and I know I enrolled a couple of our conference days, so that class is always packed with many waiting. 20% of our students are Hispanic. 6 of those are 6 Spanish-speaking families. 14% of our students receive special education, and we focus hardcore on an inclusion model so that our special ed students get their specially designed instruction as close to what everybody else get that is appropriate and possible for that kid. Our 7 classroom teachers include also a behavior coach, 7.5 hours of a classified person. We have 2 support folks in our preschool. We have 5 intervention SEAs that are 6.5 hours each. We have 1 full-time office manager, a full-time custodian, and a part-time cleaning kitchen staff, and she runs that kitchen by herself for half day. We have free breakfast and lunch for all students, which we call a CPE school. Our specialists are one of our more challenging areas. We only have a half-time counselor. We have a little bit more than a half-time resource teacher, so we only get 24 hours of her support. We all know that kids do need to learn for 6.5 hours a day, so it's hard when she's not there every day or she's not there all day. So this year I was able to use some of my title funds to fill out her day so she's there and can be a support to all kids at all times when they need it. I have 0.3 of a speech teacher who I share with Periwinkle, beep beep. I have 0.75 of PE, so again, I have to arrange my PE schedule, which is prep for all teachers, including my preschool teacher, at a time that works with my PE schedule. This year, we arranged PE so that I get PE 5 days a week, but I only get my PE teacher 6 hours a day. So she misses before school and after school time, which is also a struggle with meetings, professional development, supervision. I do have 1 full-time instructional coach who I depend on a great deal for all of those great MTSS program supports that I'm going to talk more about, but she also helps with intervention, she helps with curriculum decisions, she helps with teaching and doing professional development with our classified staff, and so she's sort of my go-to person for a lot of those things. Without her, we wouldn't be as successful as you are about to see we have been. We have a lot of structured support systems at our school. We pride ourselves on being very predictable, very consistent, so that kids come to school, they know what to expect, and they are safe and can behave appropriately in that setting every single day. Every one of our staff members are part of our PBIS team. CHAMPS happens in every classroom, in every setting, every time there's a change. Again, that teaches kids that don't know what's coming what to do. Those kids that already know what are coming, it doesn't hurt them at all because they get a reminder. We work really hard on diagnostics and intervention so that we are supporting the whole child, whether it is social emotional learning, executive functioning, life skills, toileting in kinder, first, second, third, all the years, but then also diagnostics in reading, math, and we even have some handwriting this year. This data is thinking of this a little bit differently. These are the numbers of red kids that we've had. Sorry, I should stand next to the microphone. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This was the year before I came, but we're missing 1 year in the middle. So the year before I came, we only moved 4 kids in the dark purple. We only moved 4 red students out of the red zone that year. That's not a great number. And those students that are in the red are the students that are struggling the hardest. We call them the severely at risk. We call them the far to go. We call them the red zone kids. So our goal in this graph is to decrease that number and move a lot of kids each year. And you can see that we started higher, and then as from 2018, 19, and then 19, 20, we've gone down and down and down, but we're also moving more kids. I will point out the last one that is looking at this year. Instead of it being beginning of the year numbers of red kids to end of the year numbers of red kids or numbers of at-risk kids, our 36 is actually to 32. That's our mid-year mark, so we've got another half year to go. This graph is even more exciting. So this one, we want things to go up. So again, starting on the left, that's beginning, middle, end of the year. The percentage this time, not the numbers, but the percentage of kids that are at and above reading. So we want that number to start high in the fall. We want that light number to be big, but we also want that purple number to always be bigger. We've lost some data in the middle. On the far right, I will point out that at the end of 2022, we ended the year with 51% of our kids at or above grade level as measured by this tool in reading. When we started the fall in 2022, we did not lose students. We actually gained 1% of our students starting the year at or above grade level. Therefore, we didn't have a summer slide. So we took off from there and we continued. This graph I'm really excited about. This is one that was made by our K-12 literacy TOSA. And the grid is cut in half, and those are all the elementary schools. Everybody gets a dot on this screen. And the ones on the left, I'll just cut it in half and look to the left. Those are students that are, or those are schools that had students, a few in the low proficiency level. Going up, those are kids, they had low percentage proficiency, but they made a lot of growth. Moving to the right, the blue box says high proficiency, high growth. So those are schools that increased the percentage of students at and above, but also had made significant growth fall of this year to winter of this year. And the bottom right would be high proficiency, but those kids came in doing well and they're still doing well. So that's to be celebrated, but the growth measure is not as high. And as you look in the top right-hand corner, drum roll, brrr, if I hit the next one, the top school that made the most growth this year was Tangent Elementary. Little tiny bit proud about that part. So here's our academic approach. How do we make that happen? I will go back and repeat that we maintain structure and routine every day. My kinder teacher does the same expectations in September, and she's still doing them in April. I couldn't do that. It would make me crazy to have to do it over. She's an excellent person, and it is always the same. Our master schedule starts with looking at what our students need first. Then we fill in around that. Sometimes I need to move third grade math to the afternoon because I need another intervention block at that time. So we set our interventions first, and then we fill in our district-wide master schedule agreements around that. Everybody gets the same amount of time, but sometimes we need to move some of those big chunks around. We do use the core projection maps that other schools have talked about, and we focus on those priority standards. We use the balance assessment system that other schools have talked about. We use a screener that is common throughout the district. One thing that we do is we use a variety of diagnostic tools to figure out what does that child need. If a child needs to have a high blood pressure medication, but we give them physical therapy, it's not matching the need with it's not matching the need with the right therapy or intervention. So we work really hard to find groups of kids, what does that group need? And then we give them precisely what they need so that we can move that reader. We have ongoing progress monitoring. Those tasks match our strategic direction for the district. I think I've said 15 times in here that we diagnose for what kids need and we provide exactly what they need. Interventions happen 5 days a week. Nothing gets in the way of intervention. If we're going to reschedule our day and we're going to have a fun event, intervention does not get touched. Core reading also doesn't get touched because that's pretty important. We review and we analyze that progress monitoring data, and when kids are flatlining or kids aren't making growth, then we come together as a group and we say, okay, it's not working. What else do we have? And we find something else for them. This one is also very exciting. Our second goal this year was behavior. So on the far left, there were 1,554 referrals for a school of about 130. That's a lot of referrals if you take 1,554 and divide it by 171 days of instruction. I can't do that math, sorry, not on the spot. But of those 1,554, 484 of them were major referrals. Major means there's unsafe, somebody's being hurt, classroom instruction has stopped, the principal is involved. And if you take 484 and you divide it by 171, that's more than 3 a day. And I cannot respond to 3 a day, and that's starting on day 1. That's the day before Christmas. That's every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It's way too many. So we implemented a lot of strategies, and you can see right around 2019 is when CHAMPS came on board, and our school does CHAMPS really well. We have no data for 2021 as students were home. In 2021-22, the next one, you can see that we've decreased that down to 358. Of the 358 last year, only 41 of those were major, where I had to be involved. This year, we are down to 87, with only 9 of those that I have to be involved with. Not that I'm not involved with the 87 because they are fun, but I only have to be involved with those 9. The 9 are majors where there has been somebody that has been injured, there is a fight, there is a harassment, we've got a couple of students that don't understand the difference between safe comments and not safe comments. This data is looking at this year and last year. Again, this year is in the red. The blue is last year. And our numbers continue to go down and down and down. With this year, we are so tight on routines, expectations, structure, predictability. Our routines don't change. Teachers' schedules don't change. Therefore, kids can be super successful inside there, and teachers maintain those champs and clear expectations all the time. So how do we do that? This is what we do. We really focus on positive behavior interventions and support. We emphasize the positive part, where we don't have random unpredicted birthday parties or this different events all the time. We are very consistent on our celebrations as we are with our academics. So we have one superstar party every month, and it's a big deal, and everybody gets to go. Everybody on staff is part of that PBIS because it is how we do business. We focus on our green zones so that every kid knows exactly what to do. Green zones include things like we teach the expectations, we reteach the expectations, we pre-teach them again 3 times a year, we provide star tickets naming exactly what is expected, we have expectation stations, we focus on character traits, we do celebrations, we fill the tank. No, we are never going to dunk the principal. It really would be unsafe. We celebrate golden awards on a weekly basis. We have numerous non-contingent interactions with every student every day. I've staggered staff from the bus to the school so kids get hello and by name at least 12 times every morning. We focus on champs and high structure. Next year, our goal, we are looking at our needs assessment to find out what is going to be our 3rd goal for next year. Our ILT team just agreed on math as our focus. Here are some of the beautiful human beings at Tangent. The example on the left is flexible seating that really helped. This classroom has a lot of active ADHD, lack of focus individuals, and this teacher has used Albany Schools Foundation and another bank grant where kids can sit on the floor, they can lay on the carpet, they can sit on a puffy chair, they can sit on a wobble stool, and it has changed the sort of the buzz in her room from being really interrupting to kids can get the need that they're, feed their body the needs that, oh my goodness, feed their body the movement and the weight that they need so that those kids can focus. So here are challenges. My ELL students that should be targeted for Tangent are bused to another school because that school can provide 30 minutes of ELD that my school doesn't have. That makes me sad because my students are segregated away from my school and I would like to have all of my students at Tangent. We have a condemned building on our property that's in our backyard that's really ugly. It also is not usable due to the mold inside. So we would really love for that to be gone, and our fire department is ready at the waiting when we would like to burn that. We do not have a full-time counselor, and we have kids that are affected by trauma and just in-house family issues, divorce, death in the family, all kinds of situations. If we could have a full-time counselor so those kids can get the needs met when they need it rather than when she's on staff, that would be great. Also, it would be nice to have a consistent layer of support. Again, I mentioned earlier that I only have a part-time resource teacher, a part-time PE. I have no music, I have no ELD, and I have no dean. Although we don't need a dean because we're knocking it out of the park. Knock on wood. Points of pride, our staff work really well together. We argue well together, we contradict each other, we come to consensus. We really always keep kids at the center of our focus all the time. Everything we do is because it's what's best for kids. And teachers will say, but I don't like that, but I understand that's better for kids. We have an annual kinder camp for 2 weeks, and it really sets our kids up for success. Our kindergartners come in, and they are ready to learn on day 1. I almost wish we didn't have that assessment week, but I know other people need it. I don't mean to get rid of that, but our kids really come in ready. This year, we had 95 plus students come for our literacy night, which we called Camp Read S'more. Might have had something to do that we told them chocolate was involved, I'm not sure. But we had 228 total attendees come. We focus on Read Across America, we have Spirit Weeks, we celebrate diversity, we have a diversity week coming up where we're gonna celebrate inclusion. We have a wicked strong PBIS team. If you're from New England, you get the funniness about wicked. And we focus on those green zone. We have a star bulletin board, which we are the Tangent Superstars, but we also are focusing on student star growth. We are all teachers. This came true when I had a student that came in one day and I was supposed to open the door for her and I had forgotten and somebody else had. I'm like, who let you in the school? And she said, oh, the cleaning teacher let me in. So even the custodian is considered a teacher in our school. Looking forward, we have lots of fun things coming up. There's a new development coming into our area. I'm super excited for those homes to fill up with children and come to Tangent. We look forward to improving our math interventions. I mentioned the Diversity Week. We're having a real DJ come this week for our Superstar Party. It's pretty awesome, Thursday afternoon. We also have inflatables coming in May, which is a bouncy house. And I definitely like to bounce on those days. We're also looking to increase our parent involvement and increase family engagement. Peoria Gardens comes to our school, so with their children in line, we're working with them to improve our outdoor space. And we are continuing to refine our behavior and academic support so that we really can reach every single child, every single day. And pie in the face, my face is not there. Any questions?
Roger.
Great presentation, great work by you and the team at Tangent Elementary. You mentioned a new subdivision. Would that be the subdivision on Columbus there on the south end of?
That's correct.
Actually, probably closer to a couple other schools in proximity, but it's a quick shot.
The boundary line is on the boundary line's on the other side, so it pulls them to us.
Yeah, okay.
We have room,
Right.
and we're purple.
So that was, so enrollment numbers, I saw, have those moved down in the last 5 years?
They have not. They have gone sort of up and down, up and down. When students had the opportunity to go online, we were down to 97 that year. We are back up to 135 right now. And so they do fluctuate a little bit depending on depending on a lot of things. But we are ready for that growth and we have space.
So what would you consider capacity? How much space do you have?
We have 11 classrooms. So if we were to have 2 of every grade level, which would be my next goal, we would have to eliminate a room for our resource teacher and we'd have to eliminate our preschool program, neither of which would be good for kids. So we'd really like that modular that is rotten and haunted. By the way, you should not go there by yourself. That should be removed. And then we're looking forward to maybe a new modular out there.
So
That's my fantasy land.
how long have we needed to burn down the building?
As long as I've been there, it has been haunted and uninhabitable.
So let's burn it.
Yes, do it. There is electricity that goes to it, and so I've checked into
kinda
it for
how it
years. The electricity needs to be
Cancel the alarm.
Send me
disconnected.
out there, aren't you?
Yeah.
Thanks.
There's a lot that needs to still be done, but our fire department is ready, and I've talked with them as well. So when it works, let's do it.
Let's set a date.
Mr. Bullen's wanting too badly. We will have to prepare for cleanup. They don't get, the burn doesn't take care of everything. It
You
leaves a
haven't
little
seen
bit
the
of a mess.
Tangent Fire Department in action. They take it all down.
Okay. There you go,
I would just
Gretchen.
like that to be a place that kids could be.
This is
Anyone
not the
else?
first time we've heard that suggestion from Gretchen.
It's haunted.
Bring the marshmallows, so we can make this an event. Like I asked the previous principal, what is the one thing, and maybe it's burn the building down, that we could do for you that, that would make it better?
I would like all of my students that are in the tangent boundary area to be together. I would like all those kids to be able to go to school with their neighborhood friends. And what I really need is I need to have full staff members. I need to not have a 0.2 and a 0.3 and a 0.6. I need to have staff that allow me to provide the support to kids for their entire 6.5-hour school day. So I need a full-time counselor and I need a full-time resource teacher. And then I can use my title money for hiring an interventionist, which would be amazing.
Raise the roof.
Michael? Okay, thank you very much for you. It looks like you're doing some great stuff. Thank you. Okay, we're not going. Told we're not going to do Waverly tonight, so we're on to consent agenda. I1, Memorandum of Understanding, GAEA. Superintendent, would you like to speak to it, or you just want us to vote?
This is a contract or an amendment to the contract, memorandum of understanding. It is dated for this year. And what it does is, we began the year, and I believe there was an MOU similar to this last year, and of course, there's existing contract language. We started the year with a a real shortage of substitutes of certified. And there was a lot of time being built up as teachers were giving up their preps in order to cover the absence of teachers who were gone. We had the ability to, someone could earn time and then could take time off later in the year. Given the shortage of subs, that was creating a problem. We were moving the problem down the road. So if you look at the fourth paragraph, we are looking to pay cash out in April and then again in June, the teachers for this, as opposed to giving them sub time, right? Giving them days, giving them leave as a result of that. I appreciate that that the GAEA was willing to allow us to do this in 2 bumps. One of the things that tasks in our business office that take a lot of time, particularly in budget time, become inefficient, right? So someone who would otherwise be working on trying to finish our budget or whatever would end up having to calculate and do a lot of this. And so they have allowed us to move that to 2 payoff periods. And it is possible. We do not have a perfect number of subs yet. I like that Caitlin said that it has improved with EduStaff, but I think we are still short, particularly in classified, but this is for certified. And we appreciate their working with us on this.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
I move to approve memorandum of understanding GAEA as presented.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next up is personnel licensed.
I move to approve the personnel license as presented.
I'll second.
I have a question. So on here, it says that it talks about this includes 4 new licensed hires and a monthly resignations being processed, but we only have 1 name on here. Is there a reason it talks about 4 and then we have 1?
I cannot speak to that. We can send that out in the board report.
Okay,
So are we voting just for the 1 name then?
Yeah, and I would
Yeah.
ask that you make that clear in the motion.
Okay.
so do I hear an amended motion?
Well, I amend my motion to approve the 1 name listed.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, next up is personnel classified.
We have a similar situation here again.
Yeah. Here it says we have 10 new hires, but we only have 5 on the list.
Again, I would ask that you reframe the motion to include only those that are on the list.
Okay,
I move to approve the memorandum of understanding with the names on the list for GAEA as presented. No, I got the wrong one. Sorry, my computer jumped up. Move to approve personnel classified, the 5 names listed as presented.
I second that motion.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, minutes, regular board meeting 4/10/23.
I move to approve the minutes from 4/10/23 as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, next up is old business, board policy IGBBA, talented and gifted students.
This is the second reading and would take an action to approve. This is an update on the talented and gifted program. Includes several measures that have been updated, and I recommend you approve it, consistent with law.
I move to approve board policy IGBBA, talented and gifted students, as presented.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, J2, updated school calendar 2023-24 school year.
So an update to the calendar. I believe that this was caught by a couple people. The updated calendar, December 25th, does not indicate a paid holiday. The calendar that was presented to you in March identified Christmas Day as a paid holiday for licensed staff. Contractually, it is not one of the 5 paid holidays. Memorial Day is the identified holiday in the contract. Correcting this will adjust the end of the school year by 1 day, which makes it 1 day longer. It does not change when Christmas will happen. And you will recall that the holiday, we now have 2 days of parent-teacher conferences at Thanksgiving, which extends that week as it had not been done in the past. Earlier, those had been in earlier November. That was in there. The change here is Memorial Day shows on the calendar. We're 1 day later to end school year.
Okay.
I move to approve updated school calendar 2023 through 24 school year as presented.
I second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, J. Oh, we're already up J. So now we're doing J3, curriculum adoption, K-12 math, and 9 through 12 language arts. Mr. Gardner.
Yeah, these are motions to select the curriculum. Oh, is Stacy here? Oh, sorry, Stacy. I'd like to welcome Stacy for her great work, and we'll talk a little bit more about some of the things that are included in our decision-making process around budget. Stacy, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Just get this set. There we go. Good evening. Tonight, I'm here to talk to you again about instructional materials adoption for high school language arts and K-12 mathematics. Because of a delay at the state level during remote learning and a delay at our district level last year, the high school language arts proposal is a 5-year adoption for fall 2023 through spring 2028. This would put high school back on track for a 7-year adoption after that. And on the same cycle as K-8 language arts. A purchase for K-12 math will align our district with a standard 7-year adoption cycle for fall 2023 through spring 2030. As you'll remember, the recommendations for these subject areas came from representative teacher committees who have met after school for several months to diligently consider which instructional materials will best serve students in Greater Albany Public Schools. We have been following Board Policy 2A and its Administrative Regulation 2A-AR, Instructional Materials Adoption Procedure. We are up to Step 6, referring the proposed adoption to the Board for approval. However, I'll start with sharing the results of Step 5, our public review and input process. Oh, backwards. There we go. The public review included sharing detailed online information about each recommendation on a digital bulletin board or Padlet, and open sessions at the district office to see physical samples of the materials. We then collected public input through an online survey. The digital resources and open sessions were announced multiple times through various methods. We had 2 board members and 6 other members of the public come to an open session. We had 10 respondents to the online survey. And I'll share those results with you. The first question on the survey is, what is your relationship to the school district? You can see most respondents were a parent or guardian of a current student in the school district. Their survey then asked respondents to indicate 3 attributes of a curriculum that they deem most important. These were their top 3. Clear and logical order in which skills are taught, adequate pacing to teach key skills in a school year, meets the needs of all learners, including English language learners, students in special education, and students identified as talented and gifted. And is developmentally appropriate content, including foundational skills, socio-emotional learning, and integration of subjects. Of the 10 respondents, most reviewed the publisher's website and other digital materials. Half of the respondents stated they looked at physical samples. Our math-specific survey questions had 5 prompts based on the vision statements from our teacher adoption committees. Respondents were asked to score each prompt on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being missing or poorly done, and 5 being highlighted and well done. For elementary math, there were 5 respondents. And looking at iReady Classroom Math, their scores ranged from 1 to 4, with a mode of 2 and a median of 2.6. We received 4 comments. There's a space in each of the sections, 4 comments. I've copied those comments verbatim and coded them. So R1 refers to the first respondent to the survey. R2 is the second respondent to the survey. You notice not everyone wrote a comment for every section. The first 2 respondents expressed concerns about student engagement. The comment from respondent 2 refers to negative experience with iReady software at Sunrise and a prior school. Although they both stated that they had looked at physical sample materials, they also completed the survey before our first open session. So I believe they both had prior experience with elements of iReady. Sunrise is one of the schools in our district that has used title funds to purchase the diagnostic assessments and online lessons in iReady this year. The assessments and online lessons are not the complete curriculum. What our teacher adoption team is recommending is the new 2024 iReady Classroom Mathematics, which is a comprehensive curriculum with a strong emphasis on student interaction and discussions. While the personalized online lessons are included, those are optional lessons that are recommended as one way to support students at their own level of instruction for no more than 1 session per week. Respondent 9 liked the visuals and expressed concern about Common Core state standards. Respondent 10 appreciated the family communication sections. Middle school math. 4 respondents evaluated the recommended middle school instructional materials, which are also iReady Classroom Math. Their scores range from 2 to 5, with a mode of 3 and a median of 3.3. There it goes. There are 2 comments related to middle school math. Respondent 8 noted the positive evaluation of iReady Classroom Math from the statewide committee facilitated by the Oregon Department of Education, or ODE. They commented that the concepts and content presentation were clear and engaging and expressed support for the work by the Teacher Adoption Committee. Respondent 9 made negative comments about immigrants and others who speak Spanish. There will be similar comments made by the same respondent in the next 2 sections. I copied these, as with all comments, verbatim. I do feel, though, that I need to respond to this because it is difficult to read. You may remember that in addition to being the curriculum coordinator, I am also the district administrator for our bilingual education programs. Last year, we had over 1,200 students from multilingual homes with 28 different languages spoken by families in our district. We have several hundred students participating in K-12 Spanish-English bilingual education programs, which, according to board policy IGBI, is part of how we nurture the diverse identities, languages, races, and cultural heritages of students and families in our community. Soy bilingüe y yo sé que la habilidad de hablar en más de un idioma es un gran beneficio para nuestra comunidad. I am bilingual, and I know that the ability to speak in more than one language is of great benefit to our community. For the high school teacher adoption team's recommendations, Savis and Vision, we had 5 respondents. They scored on the same prompt. The score range was from 3 to 5 with a mode 3 and the median 3.5. There were 3 respondents. Respondent 7 asked about pre-algebra, which was not included as an option on the state-approved list and does not fulfill high school graduation requirements in math. Respondent 8 again referenced the statewide committee's evaluation, this time pointing out some areas that we may need to supplement. They also expressed support for the committee's decision. Respondent 9 repeated concerns about Common Core state standards and the use of languages other than English. For high school language arts, we had 4 prompts based on the teacher adoption team's vision statement. There were 4 respondents who evaluated the team's recommendation for Odell High School literacy. Their scores ranged from 1 to 5, with a mode of 4 and a median of 3.6. There were 3 respondents that left comments. Respondent 8 once again referenced statewide committee's review and some areas that may need supplementing. They expressed excitement about the variety of content and tools that have potential to engage more students. They also expressed support and appreciation for the committee's work. Respondent 9 again made negative comments about languages other than English. Respondent 10 expressed concern that the curriculum sources did not seem balanced or neutral. I will mention here that there are a wide range of sources for those readings in the curriculum, and the structure of this program encourages students to question, analyze sources, make connections, and justify their own reasoning. I appreciate the time that people took to look at the proposed instructional materials. Unfortunately, the survey data is a small sampling. We have 45 teachers on these adoption committees. We have several thousand families in our district, and there were only 10 respondents to the survey. These are my main takeaways from their responses and the interactions I had with those who came to the open session, not all of which responded to the survey. Engaging students is a high priority. There is concern about being too reliant on software or digital tools, and there is support and gratitude for the teacher committees. In review, our High School Language Arts Committee is recommending the adoption of Imagine Learning's Odell High School literacy. Our elementary and middle school math committees are recommending the adoption of Curriculum Associates iReady Classroom Math. And our high school math committee is recommending the adoption of Savvis Envision for algebra, geometry, and algebra 2. As you heard last week, the teachers on these committees are enthusiastic about these choices and their potential to improve student trajectories in language arts and math. I continue to support their decision and hope you will as well. This is an action item. I don't know if you want to share that, Superintendent Gardner, or if you have questions as a board first.
I would just say, like, thank you to you and the teachers that have done the work to do it. It's somewhat disappointing that more people didn't come look at it. You know, there's a lot of concerns in the community, and rightly so. I mean, you want to be concerned about what we're teaching our kids. You know, we definitely don't want to hide anything, and we're trying to make it available. You know, I know there were multiple times to make it available. I admit it was hard for me to get here too, you know, so, but it just happens. You know, I think maybe in the future, we'll just try to ask the community a little bit when would be the best times to make it available, because it's certainly something that I think most of you would enjoy seeing and be proud of to see, you know, but not being able to see it makes you concerned, and that's just natural. So this is an action item, correct?
Yeah, this would be adopting those curriculums.
Right.
As you could see, they're going to run all the way till 2030. And so, you know, we will not, this wouldn't necessarily okay a PO for all of that. And I think Stacy's done some great work thinking about how we can creatively work with the companies and work across time here, particularly in these next 2 years. And so I just want to congratulate the committees and thank them for their work, for Stacy's leadership of that, for her. She's now been here for 3 straight meetings, pulling together, I think, great information for you, and then for the work she has done. I know she's talked with Stafford about how are we going to get this done creatively, even at a time where we're going through a little bit of a pinch. And we can't just say we're not going to do it and then not do it for 7 years, right? We're going to have to figure out how we bring this forward. But thank you, Stacy. You've just done a fabulous job on this.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
I move to approve the curriculum adoption for high school language arts as presented by staff with purchase pending budget allocation.
I second.
Question.
Go ahead.
What does purchase pending budget allocation mean?
So we know that there are a couple of possibilities in terms of the state coming in with an additional number. We also have, we are not saying we are now going to buy all of this year because that could come at the cost of people. And so what we will do is when we come to the budget process, we will hope to find ways that we can explain to you that we are beginning to do this. It may take us a couple years and not buy the whole thing. I think we've also looked at how we could fund this across 2 or 3 years so that there's less of an impact to staff presently.
So again, I want to thank you for all the work, thank the community that engaged, but as a budget matter, I'm broke. At least the reports or representations. And so are we going to present, I take it we're going to present an unbalanced budget with a deficit of X?
No, we will have a balanced budget with things that we may get should we see the funding come up.
Okay, I'm concerned that the takeaway from this action and this vote is this is going to happen, and am I to take it it's only going to happen if our budget position allows it to happen?
Yes.
Thank you.
And then could you report back to the board kind of the progress as we,
Like
in the community?
yeah.
Yeah, just so that people know where we are in the process and what we can afford and what we can do.
Yeah, although I will just be really clear, like I said in the goal update, we will put a budget that begins on May 10th in advance of the quarterly revenue forecast, which probably ultimately would be the determinant of greater possibilities.
Okay.
Okay, everyone clear on what's going on?
I think we have a motion on
I
that.
know. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you, Stacy.
Thank you.
Okay.
We have a second motion.
Go ahead, Brad.
Move to approve the curriculum adoption for K-12 mathematics as presented by staff with purchase pending budget allocation.
I second the motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Okay, reports.
Good evening, Chair Morris and Board.
Evening.
You have capital projects in a month report for March, and I just wanted to point out some highlights from that report. South Shore Elementary School, siding was completed on the exterior and drywall was completed on the interior. And we did some window pressure testing and they all passed. So that's always very good when they all pass. And then there was a substantial power cutover occurred during spring break, and that was successful too. So that was accommodating a new building, but it was power cutover for the whole campus. And it was some deteriorating power lines that the utility power company found. So we were able to accommodate that in the project timeline and budget. Central Elementary School design did start, and initial demolition was self-performed by GAPS over the spring break. So that was very good for that school. And then South Albany High School roofing project did start some pre-construction activities, pre-construction meetings, submittals, material ordering for the summer work. And then finally, West Albany High School baseball netting, this board did approve awarding that construction contract. So that was a big milestone for that project.
So I just got to say, I got feedback on that project, and that was, hey, what about South Albany? And what I said was that this was money inside the bond to reconcile the conditions created when they moved the tennis courts behind the left field fence, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Exactly.
Any other questions?
Not for me.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, next is L2, District's Facilities Project Report.
Yeah, thank you, Board. I want to move through a quick update on facilities, stepping off to where we left off just a couple weeks ago here. So just reminding you that supporting students, teachers, administrators have greater success is our guiding purpose. In preparing for today, I asked Trinell to pull the numbers of work orders. In the last 2 months, we've had 776 work orders put in our system. We closed out 625 of those work orders in the last 2 months, and a total of closeout of about 825 work orders, so some were previous to that 2 months. So I can say our staff is busy doing a lot of work across our buildings, and as we get better at responding to those work orders, I'll bring more of those numbers to you in our new system that we have, but certainly pleased with what I'm seeing effort-wise over at Grand Prairie. Slides 3 through 6 were review from last month. I just put it in the slides just so you had context to the slide 7, which I'm going to jump to. So if you have any questions on slide 3 through 6, be happy to answer those, but I'm going to fast forward a little bit. So really what I want to bring to you tonight is what we planned. Our HVAC crew and electricians have met twice a week for the last month and a half to forecast out what are projects that we can get done over the spring and summer. That's what I've asked them to focus on. Here's the projects that HMK is planning for spring and summer. These are larger projects. There's more projects going on just in these, but these are the large ones. So South Shore Elementary construction is due to be completed in June, and we'll be moving into that facility the first or second week of June. You just heard about West Albany High School baseball netting. Again, that's a bond fund. South Shore is an ESSER 3 expense. And then the Central Elementary School cafeteria remodel. I want to thank Dick today for the history lesson. We toured the building today, and he gave me a great history lesson of that building. I appreciate the time I spent with him today. That's an ESSER 3 fund, and then also the South Albany High School roof, so you heard Skip talk about that as well. Here's our summer and our spring. This is what our staff have been putting together. Number one, it's a really important bullet, is that regular maintenance. We have to get into those facilities and do our regular maintenance. That takes a lot of time. But here's what we've scheduled. This is not the whole long list to the right, but I just put some major things that are going to be knocked off the list. We would spend a half an hour here if I detailed out each one at each school. So the major thing at Tequina is some roof ventilators. We have the modulars outside are going to get new HVAC units at Calapooya, South Albany High School. The pool boilers that I thought were done over spring break, we had a little issue with ordering and getting parts for those, so that's scheduled for the spring and summer. West Albany High School, some bird mitigation in the front of the building, some locker room heating, amongst a laundry list of things that are still to do. Timber, we're still, we have our boilers installed there, but now we have some programming and some controls that we're doing. And then the Central Elementary School, we're partnering with HMK in that project on the cafeteria, electrical lighting. We've demoed that building over spring break. It looks great underneath there. We've done some pipe insulation to help the heating issue. And I think it's going to be a great open space for their cafeteria underneath there. That's going to be much cooler as well, because we're going to have a double door outside to open to that playground in the back of the school. So I'm really excited about what's going to happen there. North Albany Middle School is our major project for the summer, so I detailed that out a little bit more. So the current plan is this: to replace 10 HVAC units, and they are AC units, in the interior rooms. And my staff selected that because that's where we get most of our complaints about the heating and cooling. Some of the cooling systems don't work, so the goal is to have that done. and then revalve the exterior rooms so they can work on those during the school year. Whereas when we revalve, we can open them up individually by classroom and deal with individual classrooms. If we don't revalve, we have to do them all at the same time and shut down the whole school. So this will allow us to do that. And then to install the exterior wall units that we spoke about 2 weeks ago during the school year at breaks, Christmas time, spring break. And if possibly we can misplace a teacher for a week, it takes us about a week to install one of those. If we can't get the 10 roof units for North Albany Middle School in time, we'll flip that and we'll do the exterior rooms and then do the HVAC units during the school year. But that's the current plan, and that'll be a major project for this summer to knock that off. Want to cover this with you, but I want to caution you with this. I put this in here. This is really a worksheet that I put together when I started a couple months ago. There was concern about where we were at financially with each of these projects and do we have enough funds to really tackle some more off the CFU list. This is the work my staff has done to really forecast out what each project's going to cost to close out. Really, South Albany High School roof, you can see it, I put it in the upper list. It really should probably be in that lower list. But really, this is just an accounting worksheet for me to be confident that we're going to have enough funds to close out these projects and do more even into the future. So the anticipated column is the one that's important. That's what my staff feels like it's going to take to close out those projects. In my meetings with Gary as I Doug, when I transitioned, he said all of those line items, you have plenty of money to finish those projects in each line item, and he was correct. That's what my staff believes too, and that's what they've been working on forecasting out. The ones in turquoise are just the ones that we plan on doing over the summer. So the really important number there is the one total remaining. So after we do everything on that chart, if our calculations go as planned, some might be more expensive. It's just a pretty good guess. But some may be a little bit more expensive due if we contract them out. But we end up showing about a $3 million remaining after we finish that laundry list. So the next step of this will be to identify projects that we can go out to bid on, and then what is the schedule for knocking out this work the following school year. So that's kind of a worksheet there for you.
Can I ask questions?
Sure.
You're up.
I'm not out. So you anticipate being able to do everything on this top list, and what you've got highlighted in blue is what you will have done by the end of the summer? Is that right?
Correct. And there's more scheduled to be done on the end of summer. It's just not a bond necessarily project. Some are an ESSER 3 project or a general fund project, so it's not on that turquoise list.
I was going to get to that. So, and these are projects that were self-performing? Yeah?
Not all of them. You see in that column S and H, the S are self-performed and the H are HMK.
Okay, so what is SRES mechanical?
Sunrise Elementary School, mechanical, believe HM, correct me if I'm wrong, Skip, is going out to bid for that next fall.
That's correct. It's currently in design.
It's more complex, as I recall. It's got some abatement, it's got some.
It has structural,
support.
roofing, architectural. It's very complex.
It's a more comprehensive project.
Okay. When do I get to ask you about the central heating? Is that next slide? Is it?
Whenever, let's see.
So I'm asking. So I'll just ask you now.
Okay.
You have a project to remodel the cafeteria at Central, but unless you resolve the heating situation, it's awfully hot down there, and I hope we're not resolving one and not the other.
Yeah, so our central heating is a project that we've pushed out to next summer.
You'll recall that the leave time on the equipment was 28 weeks. And it
Yes.
would not have been able to be done this year. And that was from the local supplier.
We have ordered for Central a mock-up of the machines that we're looking to put in that facility to make sure that project will go as planned the following summer. That's our hope with that.
I'm sure I'm just thinking the same thing you are, Roger. It's disappointing it takes so long. And so so we're not holding up on the fact that we're willing to do it, we could do it, we don't have the money to do it. We're holding up because we just can't get the equipment to do it?
Correct.
Wow. Okay.
It's not okay.
No, it's not. but-
When is the spend requirement of those funds? There's an end date.
24.
Well,
Is it June 30th?
so how, if we're doing it in the summer of '24, I mean, what are the restrictions and the requirements on those funds? I would take it then that the funds would only be eligible for the purchase of the equipment. And I guess if we're self-performing, there's no, except we're not, right? We met with a contractor there, and so they would be performing it.
Contractor backed out of that project. That's been delayed. That's what's caused part of the delay. So we may have to go back to the ESSER 3 as well and have some discussions about that funding source as well. But yeah, our original contractor backed out of that planning with us. So we've moved our focus this summer to the North Albany Middle School.
So when will we order the equipment, or have we?
We've ordered one test unit to be able to be put into, to see if it mock up, if we can make it work with the plan that we have drafted with Kinnery's. That's where we're at this point with that.
Okay.
So, and I can get you more details specific on that, my next report too, and see if I can detail that out a little bit more for you. So again, I've said this a couple times, just to continue to scope out these projects is important to get completion here. Monitors, and monitor our building maintenance needs as well. Obviously, monitoring costs are important. I'll bring you an update on Central. It's more specific next month. And I'd also like to, if allowable, to put on the agenda, update you a little bit on busing as well. I think that was a concern brought up tonight. I'd like you to bring you an update of the percentage of routes that we're canceling and how that's working across the district.
I think that would be great.
Yeah.
For you to do that and for us to understand it better. And kind of the idea of what kind of manning we have and what kind of manning or staffing we want,
well,
in a perfect world.
yeah, and I understand your concern about Central, so I'll dive into there and get you some more specifics for next time. I appreciate that.
So you mentioned at the start of this that you had 700 work orders for what was the period of time was that?
2 months.
2 months. And so do you know how many of those work orders are reoccurring versus one time?
I don't know if they're duplicates or not. I would imagine they're not duplicates. I just asked for the number. I didn't really analyze where they were coming from or what building or if they were related to heating or grounds. I just had a total number given to me today. But I have a meeting on Thursday to dive into those details.
Right, it would be interesting if you have 350 work orders a month, that's a lot. Do we have the staff that covers that. And so I think you got to 600 and,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what's the gap on an ongoing basis, and how do we fix that? And of course, where would the money come from to do that?
Yeah.
It sounds like everyone would agree with that, but I really appreciate you sharing that number with us.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it kind of gives some fidelity to us. The other thing I would tell you is I've heard from multiple teachers and administrators in different schools that they appreciate that there has been a noticed change in you getting out there and fixing things.
Yeah.
So kudos to you and your people. I agree with Roger. Obviously, you need to have the staffing to do it, but it sounds like it's well perceived and acknowledged that you guys are getting out there and doing things. So thank you for that.
Appreciate it.
And Dave, you might talk to your staff about, because there could have been some deferred maintenance that all of a sudden collided at one time. You might kind of get out your crystal ball and see if you think, okay, we can anticipate a reduction once we get on top of this stuff and we can manage it. Or are we playing catch up, I guess is what I'm saying. Or is this going to be an accepted level of work orders that we need to try to deal with?
Yeah, there's the FMX system. We're still learning a lot about that, and that's where we're starting to meet every other week to kind of study it, how we can implement it better, what are the reports that generate out of it to make us more efficient, better moving forward. So it'll be part of one of my goals next year as well.
Great.
And for Tangent, I just wanted to clarify, ESSER is extended through 9/30 of '24. So that summer project would be doable.
Thank you.
And I did look to try to get somebody to tear the building down besides burn it at Tangent in the last 2 months as well. So I think we're on the burn side of the cost though, but that was a project I did try to tackle.
Thank you.
And I've been inside and I'm okay, but it was scary.
Any other questions for Mr. Bold? Nope. Okay, new business. First reading and for review is M1, policy BDDH, public comment at board meetings.
Yeah, just a small adjustment from a citizen who had contributed a comment here a week ago, or at the last meeting. And you can see it in red, and this is a suggestion to you, and we discussed this with Chairman Morse and Vice Chairman Brad Wilson. It does limit that we would not allow a negative comment around specific student groups. We had a group of students that were negatively referred to at a comment here a few months back. And we're working to make sure that our summaries of the comments that are actually in writing in your board packet are faithfully reproduced point by point. So very small adjustments there, but I think they're very appropriate.
No questions? Okay, M2, policy IKE, promotion and retention of students.
This is an amendment to an existing policy, and it simply, Board Member Aguinaga had asked that we consider that a parent would have some methodology to request the consideration of a retention. So that does this. This is the exact same policy that we have had. The only thing that it adds is that a parent may initiate a request to a school for that to be considered. The policy finally and ultimately comes, should the parent disagree with the school, could come to the superintendent for an appeal. And that existed already this year.
Any questions on that?
No, but I would like to go back and move to approve policy BDDH, public comment at board meetings as presented.
It's a first reading.
It's just a first reading.
I've got a recommended motion here.
Oh. Okay.
We stuck them in because there were small changes. That's why.
Yeah, it's,
Procedurally, are we okay to okay.
You can do it either way.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Do we want to do the same thing for policy IKE?
Mr. Chairman, I would move approval of policy AKE IKE, promotion and retention of students as presented.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Next up, future agenda items. I don't see any. Other business, which we don't have any. Do I hear a motion?
I move to adjourn.
Do I hear a second?
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you, everybody.